we've got feedback from our last group that I pulled a few of the testimonials that I thought were pretty profound to read to you, and we can kind of discuss what happened on your end and how, kind of these testimonials just really validate this whole group session experience.
I'm excited to go over them because to hear what they experienced and then what I went through, it's kind of like makes it like my aha moment, right? So, okay.
That's why we love getting these testimonials because they're just so cool. All right, so the first one we have, she says, "Hi Debra, I was part of the healing session last week and I wanted to get in touch to say thank you to you and God. I found the session very powerful, especially at first, like I was being rushed forward or pushed forward when you first started, and then I found the duration of the session very relaxing. When I listened to the recording the next day, I found that to be much more powerful and a lot of it resonated for me. When I was repeating some of your instructions to God, my dog jumped up and backed out of the room, barking as if there was someone there, so she definitely felt it too. I have had all sorts of emotions since the session, including being very tearful yet elated. Most of my symptoms disappeared after, but today they returned slightly. But I'm taking that as the way that God is intending it until I'm ready to release them. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I hope I stay connected to you. All my love."
So I like how she began where she was like a little bit amped up because in the beginning, we kind of are. Some people have expectations. What's this going to be like, and the energy can be intense. But then how she says she kind of relaxed into it.
Yeah.
God gives us anesthesia just to calm us, to relax us, and sometimes to sedate us.
Right.
So to hear her say, and then I felt calming. I felt that peace. That's the peace of that energy entering the room and God coming into the room. I also find it's funny that her dog jumped up because my dog sits outside my room, and sometimes if the spiritual surgeons make a noise, they'll jump up or they'll know. And sometimes I'll hear my dog snoring outside the room, thinking, "Oh my gosh, everybody's relaxed because the dog's relaxed." So that was great. And then what did she say at the end?
And then she said that most of her symptoms disappeared after, but today they've returned slightly, but I'm taking that as this is the way God's intending it until I'm ready to release them.
And that's so, so true. They can disappear instantly, and then all of a sudden, our brain also triggers different things like, wait a minute, my knee used to hurt. Oh yeah, it needs to hurt. So it might just be that the brain hasn't set in yet, and
that the healing's just still integrating,
yeah, and that sometimes healing takes a process. So you never know. Some things might heal instantaneously, and some things might take time.
Yeah, we've definitely had various feedback with that. Some people, it's like they never have the symptoms again. Some people, it takes a little more time. But that's really cool. Okay, so the next one we have, she says, "Hi Debra, thank you so much for the group healing yesterday. I was at my son's house, which was evening time in the UK, watching my new grandson while they were working. While the baby slept, I had a couple of minutes to be quiet and, quote, tune in. I immediately felt hot and tingly. When I got home, I listened to the recording, and one of the first things you said was that you felt hot." That's really cool.
That's so cool because she knew the time that it was going to take place, but she didn't have time to really be present and, take it in sit in her own sacred space, but she could feel it at that time. And imagine that you're going on with your normal day and you just feel that energy. And and we've had feedback before where people be like, "Oh, I just took my lunch break and all of a sudden I felt like, whoa, I feel this energy," and go, "What time is it? I totally forgot." So the fact that she felt it, kind of tuned it off, like, okay, I'm going to hold that energy and wait till I get home, then listen to it, and she felt that energy of the warmth and the tingling. That's what's so crazy about these sessions. The heat becomes so intense. Sometimes I can't breathe. It's like, can I just take my clothes off? Nobody's in this room, right? It's just so hot. That's how it feels.
Yeah, that I feel like, and that was with this session. In the recording, like you were saying, like it's hard to breathe. Like I'm like, it's so palpable, that like heat and energy, that it was like you were having trouble for a minute. Like, okay,
and
just
so
like
what
breathe
does
through
that
it.
mean,
It's just
right?
so
What
much
does that
energy.
mean? That heat is not only the energy; it's love. It's God's presence pushing through. And sometimes when it becomes so hot, it becomes so undeniable. So she felt it too, and she listened to it. That then became undeniable for her.
Right.
So when it happens to me, it's undeniable because it's like I can't breathe. But when it happens to somebody else, that's like, wow.
Yeah.
And there's in another country and they're feeling this. Yeah.
So then she continues, while you were on the healing table, you mentioned your eye, which is why I had asked for healing, as I've been told I have a serious problem with one of mine. The thing that got my attention the most, though, is when you said you had a song in your head, Let It Be by the Beatles. I lost my brother when he was 19 and I was 16, and he was a big fan of the Beatles. Several years ago, when one of my sons was diagnosed with autism, I put the car radio on when we were leaving the hospital after receiving the diagnosis, and that song was playing. I felt it was my brother telling me that everything would be okay, and the song has been so special to me ever since. I've listened to it again today, and I believe that this was for me, so thank you so very much. I will book a one-on-one healing session with you soon.
So
that's just incredible. Like, I got the chills.
And as you were saying that, a hummingbird came to the window. So I was like, oh, okay.
That's incredible.
Before every session, I go into prayer. And in my prayer, I will get some of a topic, or I might have something that God wants me to address. And so for the first 15 minutes, I'm talking about what I received in my prayer. And one of those was that song. And I didn't know, okay, where's this song coming from? But it seemed to form that whole group, like, let it be. Let go of what you're holding on to. Trust the process. You're really not in control of it. And everything will be okay, no matter what. Yeah. And so the fact I had no idea that it was coming from somebody that had lost a loved one, and that was their song, but to hear that, I was like, wow, he pushed through in my prayer to give me this song, and I trusted it, gave it. Hearing that just gives me chills, and just it's like the best.
It gave me chills when I first read it. It just gave me chills reading it again, but like, how incredible. Like, you know, you'd say, what are the odds? But it's not odds. It's that's just what it was supposed to be. That came through, you know. And
it was so much more than the song, too.
Yeah.
It became like
a part of the whole group.
Theme, yeah. And so I was like, wow, this is so great, you know, hearing what I'm getting out of my prayers, and then the songs kind of going together. And now it even has more meaning. And that's the beauty of it. It's like you never know what's going to come through and how it's going to implement in somebody else's life.
Yeah, that one was just so cool. I loved it. Okay, so let's see. She had written to us originally. She said, She said, hi Debra, I re-listened to the recording this morning and was blown away by all the insights that you received from me that I didn't hear until today. For whatever reason, I did not hear them when I listened to it the first time, but given how blatant they are, I don't know how I could have missed them. I feel that they were definitely for me. And so that's really cool, because we've heard that also several times where people will maybe listen to a session, whether it's a private or a group, and they're like, they listen the first time, messages come, but then they listen a second time and they're like, holy, or a third time or a fourth time, and they hear different things come through.
Yeah, that's why it's great that they're recorded, because it's like the healing keeps giving, right? And I'm really happy that she was just present. And that's why I try to tell people, just be present in the moment when you're having it. Try to just be. Don't analyze the words as they're coming through, because then you're not letting it just flow through you. And she did exactly that, to the point where she couldn't help it, right? She's trying to listen, but sometimes people fall asleep and they can't even, they fall asleep within 10 minutes of the session. Like, I can't get through it.
That's me. Like in the groups, several of the groups I've been in, like I'm like, all right, I'm ready to do this, like, and then it's like I fall asleep. And it's like I cannot help it, and it's in the middle of the day, and I'm like not tired, but I fall asleep, and so then I have to, listen to the session multiple times to get through it, because it's just, that's like for whatever reason for me, that's how I need it to integrate.
And I think that's what's so important. She listened again.
Yeah.
And then she received messages that she needed to hear at that moment. I believe everything happens in divine time. So it kind of went in stages for her. Then she listened again and she heard even more. And so that it became more validating. And that happens to a lot of people, where it's like at first it was like, okay, I felt the energy, but the words didn't mean anything. But the second time, it was like, how did I miss that? Like what she said.
Yeah, we have had that feedback before where someone's like, I don't know, I don't know that much really was meant for me, or I didn't, and then they'll listen again and be like, oh, like I totally missed this the first time I listened. So anyway, that's super cool. So then we had responded to her and just gave her some validations back, and then she had responded and said, thank you so much for your responses. It means a lot. I've always had a sense of God in my life, and I've had numerous spiritual epiphanies that have had profound effects on me. I've also at times felt totally abandoned and have had to find my way back. This experience with you has helped me to again feel God's love and presence personally at a time that I really needed it.
See, and it's that embrace.
Yeah.
It's that embrace. Sometimes that's all we need. It's like having that hug, right?
Yeah.
Somebody comes and you don't need the words. You just need somebody to hold you, and that's what happened with her. She was held in that light and that love, and she, at the time that she needed it the most.
Yeah, and I think that's also why there's some people that will do multiple groups, or they might come. We have some people that come every month. We have some people that might come quarterly, let's say. We have some people that, I had one last year and I want to do it again. Like the groups, it can be so
impactful because each one has a message.
Right.
And each one has, following some of the people that have been here month after month and seeing how they've grown spiritually, but they're like, oh my gosh, I showed up again, and how did you know exactly what I needed this month was what the topic was? And that to me is so profound, and you know that God is leading this, because there's no way I know anything about what these people are dealing with unless they write.
Some people share and others don't, though. There's plenty of people that don't, and then it's like, whoa, I didn't even tell you what I was dealing with.
And that's important to address too, right?
Because
in my prayer, if they do tell me what they want, I don't just limit it to that. I'm not just like, okay, I gotta remember this person had a knee problem or this person had a back problem. I let it go and give it to God, and so whatever comes through, everything's being touched. So whether a person tells me or doesn't tell me, it does not matter.
Yeah, it's completely personal. I think, if they want to tell you, they might just want you to just put it out into the healing room, like put that prayer out there, and it's there, but it doesn't have to be that. They don't have to say anything.
I think they feel more comfortable, some people do, in saying, okay, she's praying on what I need, and I really need it to be heard. Like I'm voicing it for them.
Yeah, definitely. So that one was really, really good. Okay, so this one was also beautiful. So she says, good morning from Ireland. Thank you, Debra, for a very, very beautiful and potent session. The words still resonate with me as, quote, let God be your addiction. I love it.
I love those words. Let God be your addiction.
Yeah.
God did talk about addictions in this session, and there are so many ways to have addictions. Eating addictions, drug addictions, alcohol addictions, mental, sickness, all these different addictions. And he's like, just let me be your addiction. And it was so, the way she put it, like, sealed the deal with all the words that were said to describe that. She said it in 2 words. And I was like, wow, she couldn't have said it better. I love, love, love those words.
And then she continued on, my flower is a rose. It was important for me to be reminded of the trauma transmitting into the beauty of the flower and wisdom and joy. So what was the whole flower?
I'm so glad that she wrote me this. I was like, okay, so at the end of the session, after God had taken us to a spiritual journey to release our trauma, our past trauma, the trauma we're going through now, and I remember we were each going to individually walk up to the altar. I had no idea what we're doing. I'm like, okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking, what's the next step? Show me. And so I'm physically doing it too. And I remember going up to the altar, and it's like, here, now you let go of the trauma. We're going to plant that seed in the ground. Trauma's going to be your seed. And now, out of that seed, there's a flower for you to take, as you just blossomed from one to the next. And so I saw my flower, but I didn't voice it because I was like, well, I want them to get the flower that they want, or whichever flower is there for them. So I didn't voice the flower, so I was really, really curious. And so she said she got a rose, and I saw a rose, so I picked a rose. So it's like, oh my gosh.
I
mean, symbolically, it just shows too how connected we were that we picked the exact same one.
Well, and I think it's cool that she then like validates that this whole flower analogy or flower that you saw, it resonated for her as being reminded of trauma transmitting into beauty for her in her life. And so that's really cool, because I'm sure for other people it was different. Maybe that represented something else for them, but that's what's so cool is people can take different things from that, you know.
It has different meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
And we were dumping it. We were like getting rid of this. And so it was beautiful to see now that you let that go.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what you planted.
I love that.
I know, right?
The rose.
It was like,
okay, so these two I pulled because I thought that they were fascinating, because they both kind of mention the same thing. So, okay, she says, "Hi Debra, thank you for the healing session. I just listened to the whole recording and burnt some sage and lay on the floor. I listened to it over 24 hours after the actual healing event, but it was really alive and powerful nonetheless." So that's super cool that she wasn't, you know, she obviously didn't have time to, you're burping.
I'm burping and I'm feeling the energy shifting within me. So, I want to say sorry, but that just happened.
Well, let me finish reading this because this is interesting. She said, but it was really alive and powerful nonetheless. My body entered into intense shaking with different parts lifting and shaking. I suffer from pelvic issues and my hips started quaking a great deal. It felt therapeutic. My right arm kept lifting also and shaking intensely, like my body was trying to get something out or bring in energy. My legs would also randomly reposition themselves to a bent knee position. When I sat up, really large burps were released.
Okay.
So that's like hilarious that you're burping right now.
That's funny. Okay. Talk about being connected with her at that moment and what you're talking about. So a lot of people are at work, they're sleeping, or they can't just listen to it right away, and I believe that the energy is going to hold for them, and that's a perfect example. It held for her. It held even for right now. Mm-hmm. I just tuned in, I burped, she was burping afterwards, and that's a big thing for me. When I'm finished with my session, I'll sit up, and everything, I'm rebalancing my body, and I'll be just burping, and I'm trying to say excuse me, but I'm really not want to say excuse me, because I'm like, well, this is good, right?
Yeah.
But the other part that she mentioned is her body shaking. Not everybody will feel that, right? Some people won't feel nothing at all, so there's no right or wrong way to receive. But she mimicked a lot of the things that I went through, and so my body will feel everything. So when she said, you know, I'll bend my knees up or my leg was shaking, mine was doing the same.
Yep.
And so that's 24 hours later. That energy is
that
intense. That's beautiful.
Yep. So then she says, on the day of the healing, so it would have been 24 hours prior to her listening to it, I was a bit overwhelmed. There was just a lot going on with some family issues. I think the biggest thing that happened on the evening of the healing was that some trauma memories came into my mind, and I wondered if it was related to the healing session that had happened that day. Maybe I needed to remember some events in order to heal something stuck. This morning, I had a therapy session, and a lot of memories of trauma are coming out. It was a heavy day, but the healing session helped me release some stuckness. I'm going to listen to it a few times again. I've done medicinal plants in the past where I shake enormously. This felt similar without having to take plants. Thank you very much. I hope you've recovered from the intensity of the healing session. So I just thought that was so fascinating that the evening of the healing session, she was not able to tune in. She had not yet listened to the recording, but she already randomly, these trauma memories started coming through for her. And this is obviously what she needs, is for these memories to surface so that she can push through them, work through them. So that's fascinating that happened before she'd even listened,
and the fact that we were healing the trauma.
Right.
And so things that are deep, deep within that you forget. It could happen to you when you were a child. How could you remember this?
Right.
It just is so deep within, or you don't want to remember it. You push it there.
Blocked it out.
So I like what she says. We're releasing the blockages, and it's starting to come out for her.
Yeah, and so even in her therapy session, she had like all these memories were coming out, and she's like, this is from the session. Like this clearly these have been unlocked through this group healing, which is incredible.
And she wasn't upset by it.
So she said
she was ready for it, and God knows you're ready for it. So like if he felt like you weren't ready for this,
right,
that trauma wouldn't come through. But we have to feel to heal.
Right.
And she's releasing. And I like too that she went to a therapy. That just shows you she's using every tool, and the plant
medicines that she's done. That's so interesting.
Yeah, so she's using all different modalities and using every tool in her toolbox to help heal.
Which is what you're always talking about. What we're always saying is it's not a one thing. Everything works together. Use any tool that's possible to help you.
Right.
And then I love that she said that she was hoping that you recovered from the intensity of the healing session. Like the fact that she could, she
can hear me.
It's nice when people will say that, like they're so caring and they're like, I hope that you're okay, because, and you always are after, but it is intense when you listen to it, because it's like,
yeah, and I always feel so bad when they say that, because like I try to say that at the beginning, like, you may hear me endure some of your pain.
Yeah.
You may hear this. Know that when the session is over, I'm not going to feel it. I might feel exhausted,
which you did after this group,
but I'm not going to feel in pain at all. And so when by acknowledging that, she heard me.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't something that is like, I'm going to do a healing on you and the energy's going to go through. These go deep. I'm feeling it. I'm seeing it. I'm voicing it. We're seeing visions. I mean, there's so much.
Yeah.
So that I love that she said that.
Yeah, that was super
Validates that she heard me.
Yes. All right, so then the last one that I wanted to pull, which I thought just complemented that other one so well. She said, thanks so much for your healing efforts on my behalf. I found it interesting that the recording mentioned filmy eyes because I've had this issue just leading up to that healing session and I didn't mention it to you, which is fascinating because the earlier testimonial, she had eye issues.
Yeah, and it just shows you that God does bring people with the same issues.
Yes.
There's so many. And I remember the eye issue having and it's so weird because my eye's doing that right now. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I wipe my eye while we're talking, because I'm feeling this film. And is it the left eye?
She didn't say.
Okay.
Filmy eyes. Because I've had this issue just leading up to that healing session. I didn't mention it to you, so she didn't even write it in her information that she gave to you.
And that's what I like too. God knows what you need.
Yeah, exactly. That just shows it doesn't matter if you wrote it or not. There were certainly other things that spoke to me, the guidance being the obvious one. I have that happen to me too, where I get the message to listen to the messages, LOL. So I think she's saying, in part of that healing, it was talking about listen to the messages that are coming through. Like I'm giving you the message to listen to the message.
Yeah.
And I think you had laughed about that during the session or something.
Yeah.
She said, I'll listen to it again and see what else I can glean from it. I think that the healing is unfolding. I have been engaging in some good affirmations, and one that came to me, sort of my inner voice, but directed from divine source, was similar to the one you affirmed during the recording. There were other things I can't remember now, but if something comes to me, I'll let you know. Thank you again for all of your good work. So then she wrote back several days later, and she said, I've been meaning to get back to you, but life got in the way. I wanted to tell you another thing that happened after the group healing. I woke one morning and I was in a meditative state, not unusual for me. And there were others with me, the presence of two spiritual allies that are familiar to me, one of them being Grandmother Ayahuasca, also not too unusual, but a third figure showed up, all glowing, and it was Jesus. Now this is unusual for me. The two others were beside me, and Jesus showed up in front of me. I got the impression that he was there to provide healing, and I feel compelled to join another group healing. I think it's been a process, but I hope we'll make more progress the next time. I have had many spiritual experiences. I know. I literally have the goosebumps too. I have had many spiritual experiences, and they have their own timing, but I do feel strongly that this presence was the result of the connection I have with you. I had one other experience with Jesus early in my work with plant medicines. Such as ayahuasca, but he didn't show up as prominently as he did here.
Wow.
So
I got the chills so much.
So fascinating that two separate people, one's from New York, one's from Mexico, listen to the session and both compare it to their experiences they've had with plant medicine. It's just fascinating. I thought that was so cool.
It is, because and they're saying that it was just as
Profound, yeah.
And they didn't have to take any plant medicine. And
Yeah.
they were able to get into that deep meditative state and feel and see.
Yeah.
She was able to see. And she was able to see it very clear, to see Jesus come into the room. That's beautiful.
So cool. So she's going to join another group. So yeah, these were incredible. These were just some of the ones I wanted to pull and read with you and kind of go through them all together because it's so fun to like get this feedback. You know, you always tell me after the sessions, like, okay, like we put it out there, like a lot happened, like all these things, and you're just hoping that, well, you're trusting that it is meant for each and every person and that they're going to receive what they need to receive. And so getting this feedback is just so cool to be able to read and like we experience it over again. We get the chills, like you're getting the filmy eye, you're burping, like it's just incredible.
It's just undeniable.
Yeah.
And I just am so blessed to be able to be the instrument and vessel to do this work of God. It is so profound because none of this comes from me, and a lot of times I don't remember it. I don't remember anything, and so when you read something, it's like the light bulb goes on. Oh my God, yeah, that happened, and then it really makes my vibration raise because it fills me with love, it fills me with joy, and I'm just like, thank you.
Well, it's like when you get out of the session and you'll call me or we talk, and it's like, oh my gosh, like you're kind of like this happened, and it like, but then time goes by, not very much time, and like you don't, it's so much, and again, it wasn't you saying it was just going through you, so you can only remember so much, and then that just fades so quickly because it wasn't you.
It wasn't me, so
yeah.
Like, even hours later,
there's
just
exactly.
so much, like I won't remember what I felt, I don't remember the theme, I don't remember a lot of things, and what I have heard from other people that have joined monthly, with them saying, oh yeah, now that we know it's when you are speaking versus when it's coming through because your voice changes, and I'm like, really? So I can't tell that, but other people have saying, oh yeah, when Spirit's talking through you, you're just blah 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 blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then when you talk, you're like, okay, now we're here. So it's I love the feedback. I can't get enough of it because I'm just it's my aha moment.
Yeah.
They had theirs, and then I get mine.
I love it. Well, on to the next one.
Yay! I'm excited.